The rain fell in sheets that night, washing away footprints as quickly as they formed. A man carrying his sleeping daughter trudged through the downpour, passing a crumpled figure in an alley without a second glance, until something made him turn back. That split-second decision would change lives forever, though neither man could have imagined how. If you've ever wondered whether ordinary kindness can alter destiny, this story might just break your heart and heal it again. Like and subscribe if you believe in the power of unexpected heroes. Jake Sullivan hunched his shoulders against the rain, his worn jacket offering little protection as he carried his sleeping 6-year-old daughter Lily through the darkened streets. The shortcut through this upscale neighborhood would save them 20 minutes of walking, and with Lily's fever finally broken, all he wanted was to get her home to bed. "Almost there, sweetheart," he whispered, though she couldn't hear him through her exhausted slumber. The past 3 days had been hell, Lily's temperature spiking dangerously high, the pediatrician's office packed with flu cases, and his boss at the construction site making it clear that another absence would cost him his job. Single parenthood had never felt more impossible than it did tonight. He was passing the entrance to an alleyway between 2 luxury high-rises when he heard it, a faint groan that might have been human or merely the wind. Jake paused, adjusting Lily's weight in his arms. He should keep walking. He had responsibilities, a sick child, and nothing to offer anyone else. Yet something pulled him toward the sound. "Hello?" he called softly, stepping into the alley's shadows. The figure was slumped against a dumpster, wearing what had once been an expensive suit, now soaked and muddied. Blood trickled from a gash on the man's temple, mixing with rainwater to create pale red rivulets down his face. "Hey, man, you okay?" Jake asked, already knowing the answer. The stranger's eyes fluttered open, unfocused and glazed with pain. "Phone, stolen," he managed. "Need, hospital." Jake shifted Lily to his other arm, her small face pressing into his neck. He should call 911 and continue home. That would be the sensible thing. But the nearest hospital was just 4 blocks away, and something in the man's eyes, a profound vulnerability that seemed at odds with his manicured hands and custom suit, made Jake's decision for him. "Can you walk if I help you?" The man nodded weakly, and Jake extended his free arm, helping him to his feet. The stranger swayed dangerously, forcing Jake to support most of his weight. "I'm Jake," he said, as they began their slow progress. "This is my daughter, Lily." "Alexander," the man replied, his voice strained. "Alexander Reeves." The name meant nothing to Jake as they struggled through the rain toward the hospital's emergency entrance. He was too focused on keeping both his daughter and this stranger upright to notice the flicker of recognition in the eyes of the ER staff when they arrived, or the sudden flurry of activity that their entrance precipitated. What followed was a blur, Alexander being whisked away on a gurney, a kind nurse offering to watch Lily while Jake filled out forms, and then the waiting. Jake sat in the plastic chair, Lily curled in his lap, wondering why he was still there. He'd done his good deed. The man was receiving care. There was no reason to stay. Yet he remained, watching the clock tick past midnight, then 1, then 2. "Mr. Sullivan?" Jake looked up to see a doctor standing before him, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Reeves is asking for you." Jake followed her down a corridor to a private room where Alexander lay connected to monitors, his head bandaged. The transformation was striking. Cleaned up and properly lit, he looked like he belonged on a magazine cover rather than in a hospital bed. "You stayed," Alexander said, surprise evident in his voice. Jake shrugged, adjusting Lily in his arms. "Wanted to make sure you were okay. They tell me I have a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and would likely have developed pneumonia if I'd remained in that alley much longer." Alexander's eyes, clear now, studied Jake intently. "You saved my life. Anyone would have done the same." "No," Alexander said firmly. "They wouldn't. I've learned that lesson thoroughly tonight." He paused. "The doctor mentioned your daughter has been sick." Jake glanced down at Lily's sleeping form. "Just the flu. She's on the mend. Yet you stopped for a stranger. Before Jake could respond, the door opened, and 3 men in suits entered, their expressions a mixture of relief and alarm. "Mr. Reeves, thank God," the oldest of them said. "We've been searching everywhere since you missed the conference call. Your security team is being questioned as we speak." Alexander's face hardened. As they should be. Apparently, my safety wasn't their priority tonight. The atmosphere in the room shifted, and Jake suddenly felt out of place. Whoever Alexander Reeves was, he clearly moved in circles far removed from Jake's world of construction sites and overdue rent notices. "I should go," Jake said quietly. Alexander turned back to him. "Wait. I haven't properly thanked you." "No need," Jake replied, already backing toward the door. "Just glad you're okay. At least tell me how to reach you." But Jake was already slipping out the door, a strange tightness in his chest. He'd done what anyone with a conscience would do. He didn't need thanks, and he certainly didn't want to be made to feel like some kind of hero by a man who probably tipped waiters more than Jake made in a day. As he walked through the hospital lobby, a security guard nodded at him. "Need a cab, sir?" Jake shook his head. "We'll walk. It's not far." The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under streetlights. Jake breathed in the clean, washed air, feeling Lily's steady breathing against his chest. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, explaining his absence from work, stretching his meager savings to cover next week's groceries, but for now, there was just this moment of quiet. He never expected to see Alexander Reeves again. 3 days later, Jake was balancing on scaffolding 20 stories above the city, grateful that his foreman had accepted his excuse about Lily's illness without too much skepticism. The autumn wind whipped around him as he secured a support beam, his mind focused entirely on the task at hand. "Sullivan," his foreman called from below. "Office wants you." "Now." Jake's stomach dropped. Being called to the office mid-shift was never good news. As he made his way down, he mentally calculated how long his savings would last if this was the end of his job. 2 weeks, maybe 3 if they ate nothing but ramen. The construction company's office was a glorified trailer at the edge of the site. Jake knocked on the door, steeling himself. "Come in, Sullivan," called the gruff voice of Howard Mercer, the company owner. Jake entered to find not just Howard but 2 other men in the small space. One he recognized immediately, Alexander Reeves, looking remarkably recovered in a tailored suit that probably cost more than Jake's monthly rent. "Mr. Sullivan," Alexander said, rising from his chair. "I'm glad we found you." Howard looked between them, confusion evident. "You two know each other?" "Mr. Sullivan assisted me during a rather unfortunate incident last week," Alexander replied smoothly. "I've been trying to thank him properly." Jake shifted uncomfortably. "That's really not necessary." "Perhaps not necessary, but certainly deserved." Alexander turned to Howard. "Mr. Mercer has been telling me about your work here. He speaks very highly of your skills." Howard, looking slightly bewildered, nodded. "Jake's one of my best. Fast learner, reliable. Except when his kid gets sick, but that's not his fault." Alexander smiled. "Indeed. Which brings me to my proposition." He focused on Jake. "Reeves Enterprises is breaking ground on a new development next month, a mixed-use complex with affordable housing units. We're looking for a project supervisor, someone with hands-on experience who understands construction from the ground up." Jake stared at him. "And you're offering this to me? You don't even know me." "I know enough," Alexander replied. "I know you stopped to help a stranger when you had every reason not to. I know you're raising a daughter on your own. And I know," he gestured to Howard, "that you're excellent at what you do." The third man, who hadn't spoken yet, handed Jake a folder. The position details, including salary and benefits. Jake opened it, and the number at the top of the page made him blink. It was more than triple his current salary. "This is charity," he said flatly, closing the folder. Alexander's expression hardened slightly. "It's business, Mr. Sullivan. I need someone I can trust, someone who makes good decisions under pressure. You demonstrated both qualities the other night." Jake looked to Howard, who shrugged. "It's a hell of an opportunity, Jake. I'd hate to lose you, but I'd be a real bastard to stand in your way." The room fell silent as Jake considered. The money would change everything for him and Lily: a better apartment, no more choosing between heat and groceries, maybe even a college fund. But it felt wrong, like he was being rewarded disproportionately for a simple act of human decency. "Can I think about it?" he finally asked. Alexander nodded. "Of course. But not too long. We break ground in 3 weeks." As Jake left the trailer, his mind spinning, he didn't notice the thoughtful look Alexander gave him, or hear his quiet words to Howard, "He's exactly what I thought he'd be." That evening, Jake sat at his small kitchen table, the folder open before him, while Lily colored nearby. The apartment was tiny, one bedroom that Lily used while Jake slept on the pull-out couch, but it was clean and safe, if not particularly warm in winter. "What's that, Daddy?" Lily asked, peering at the papers. "It's a job offer, sweetheart. A different job than the one I have now. Would you still build things?" Jake smiled. "Yes, but I'd be telling other people how to build them instead of doing it myself." Lily considered this. "Would you be home more? Like for my school plays?" The question pierced Jake's heart. He'd missed her last performance because he couldn't afford to lose the hours. "Yes, I think I would." "Then you should do it," she said with a child's simple logic, returning to her coloring. Jake studied the contract again. Beyond the salary, there were benefits he'd never had before: comprehensive health insurance, a retirement plan, even tuition assistance. It was everything he'd worked toward, handed to him because he happened to walk down the right alley on the right night. His phone rang, an unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Sullivan, it's Alexander Reeves. I hope I'm not disturbing your evening." Jake glanced at Lily. "No, it's fine. I realized after our meeting that I may have put you in an uncomfortable position. That wasn't my intention." "It's a generous offer," Jake said carefully. "Too generous." There was a pause. "May I speak frankly?" "Please." "The night we met, I had just left a board meeting where I fired my CFO for embezzlement. He was also my head of security's brother-in-law. My security detail abandoned me in a neighborhood they knew was experiencing a spike in muggings. It was a setup, Mr. Sullivan." Jake absorbed this. "That's why you were alone." "Yes. And do you know how many people passed me in that alley before you came along?" 7. I counted them. 7 people who looked at a man bleeding on the ground and kept walking. "I'm sorry that happened to you." "I'm not," Alexander said, surprising Jake. "It was educational. I've spent 20 years building a company worth billions, surrounded myself with people who claim loyalty while watching for any sign of weakness. Then a construction worker with a sick child shows me more humanity than anyone in my inner circle." Jake didn't know how to respond. "The job offer isn't charity, Mr. Sullivan. It's self-interest. I need people like you in my organization, people who do the right thing even when it's inconvenient." "I appreciate that," Jake said slowly. "But I can't help feeling like I'm being rewarded for something that should be basic human decency." Alexander laughed, a genuine sound that surprised Jake. "Perhaps that's exactly why you deserve it. Look, take the weekend to think about it. Talk to your daughter. This decision affects her too." After they hung up, Jake watched Lily coloring, her small face scrunched in concentration. He thought about all the things he couldn't give her: dance lessons she'd begged for, winter boots that weren't secondhand, a bedroom with space for friends to stay over. He thought about the nights he'd lain awake worrying about what would happen to her if he got injured on the job. By Monday morning, he had his answer. The first 6 months at Reeves Enterprises passed in a blur of activity. The new development broke ground on schedule, and Jake found himself thriving in his role as project supervisor. His team respected his hands-on knowledge, and he discovered a talent for management he hadn't known he possessed. He and Lily moved to a 2-bedroom apartment closer to her school, with heating that actually worked and a small balcony where Jake started a container garden. Lily joined a dance class and made new friends, blossoming in ways that made Jake's heart swell with pride and gratitude. His path rarely crossed with Alexander's, who ran his empire from the gleaming Reeves Tower downtown. Occasionally, Alexander would visit the construction site, always taking time to speak with Jake about the project's progress, but their interactions remained professional. Until the day Jake received a call from Lily's school. "Mr. Sullivan, there's been an accident during recess. Lily fell from the climbing structure. The ambulance is taking her to Memorial Hospital now." The world tilted beneath Jake's feet. "Is she? How bad is it?" "The paramedics think it's her arm, possibly broken. She hit her head as well, but she's conscious and talking." Jake was already running toward his truck when his phone rang again. It was Alexander. "I just heard about Lily," he said without preamble. "My driver is outside your site office. He'll get you to the hospital faster than you can drive yourself in this traffic." Sure enough, a sleek black car was pulling up as Jake reached the parking lot. "How did you?" "I have a notification set up for any emergencies involving my key personnel," Alexander said, as if this were perfectly normal. "Go. The driver knows to wait for you, no matter how long it takes." At the hospital, Jake found Lily in the emergency room, her face tear-streaked but brave. Her left arm was being splinted, and a doctor was shining a light in her eyes. "Daddy," she cried when she saw him. Jake was at her side in an instant, careful not to jostle her injured arm. "I'm here, sweetheart. You're going to be okay." The doctor straightened. "Mr. Sullivan? Your daughter has a clean break in her radius, that's the forearm. We'll need to cast it, but it should heal well. She also has a mild concussion, so we'd like to keep her overnight for observation." Jake nodded, relief washing through him. "Of course, whatever she needs." "I've already arranged for a private room," came Alexander's voice from behind him. Jake turned to find the billionaire standing in the doorway, looking oddly out of place in his perfect suit amid the hospital chaos. "You didn't have to come," Jake said. Alexander approached, smiling at Lily. "Hello there. You must be the famous Lily I've heard so much about." Lily studied him with interest despite her pain. "Are you Daddy's boss?" "In a manner of speaking, yes." "You have a nice car." "It has a TV in it." Alexander laughed. "It does indeed. Perhaps you can watch it when they take you to your room." Jake pulled Alexander aside while a nurse prepared Lily for transport. "Thank you for this, but it's not necessary. My insurance will cover a regular room." "Consider it a perk of your position," Alexander said firmly. "Besides, I've spent enough time in hospitals to know that private rooms mean better rest, which means faster healing." Before Jake could argue further, his phone rang, Lily's school again, this time the principal. "Mr. Sullivan, I wanted to check on Lily and also let you know that we're reviewing the incident. The climbing structure passed its safety inspection last month, but we're concerned about how this happened." "I appreciate that," Jake said, watching as Lily was wheeled toward the elevator. "I'll be in touch once things settle here." As he hung up, he noticed Alexander studying him. "Problem?" Jake shook his head. "Just the school following up. I should go with Lily." "Of course." Alexander hesitated, then added, "If there's anything you need, anything at all, please don't hesitate to ask." It wasn't until later, sitting beside Lily's hospital bed as